The following story was written and posted by Alex Joish. Special thanks to them for allowing me to use their story. Now then, do enjoy the show. I hate driving. Even before this, I hated driving. Well, I guess hate is a strong word, but I could never understand people who find it relaxing, a hobby, something they prefer to do. At best, I think it's boring. At worst, terrifying. But just for the normal reasons, Like, I'm driving a giant hunk of metal, and with one wrong twitch of my hand, I could kill myself, everyone with me, and a lot of people around me. Terrifying kind of way. Not this other way. Okay, so basically, I was already in a situation I was uncomfortable with. I was driving from New Orleans up to Boone, North Carolina, a small town in the Blue Ridge Mountains for winter break, which, for reference, is a 12-hour drive. Not only that, but my boyfriend was coming with me to meet my family for the first time, so a lot of anxiety and sweat was happening. The only good thing about this situation was we could split the drive up 3 hours each twice. My parents moved there a year ago, so I had only been up there once before, but that was one more time than he'd been, so we agreed I'd take the last 3-hour leg winding through the mountains. Most of the drive was completely uneventful. Well, driving through Atlanta was a pain, but if you've ever driven through Atlanta, you know why. We talked, listened to music, got a bunch of junk food, just normal road trip stuff. Of course, the sun went down at 5:30, so the last bit of the trip was done in darkness. But that still wasn't a problem. Actually, I preferred driving at night, weirdly enough. I mean, not anymore. But I used to like it slightly more than day driving. So we're tootling along, stopped at a gas station around 6:45 to fill up and switch seats, and kept on moving. After that, it was mostly small towns, and then turned into the Blue Ridge Parkway soon after. And, I don't know if this is common knowledge, but the Parkway is known for being gorgeous. People come to North Carolina to drive on it. Weird people who like driving. But at night, it's treacherous, and the exception to my preferred driving at night rule. The road is built right into the sides of the mountains for the most part. There's a hard rock wall on one side, and a steep drop on the other, with tons of sharp curves. I was a bundle of nerves. I was still definitely a better choice than my boyfriend, though. I had been there before, albeit once, and he grew up in New York City and hadn't started driving until college, so long winding mountain roads with little room for error was not going to be his forte. I wish he hadn't fallen asleep, though. I mean, I get it. It was a long day, and I had slept through his last driving shift. But still, I really, really wish he hadn't fallen asleep. Every so often, I'd see another car driving behind me to turn off onto one of the side roads, or one whizzing by. But after almost an hour, and I hadn't seen anyone else, I started to think something was weird. I mean, yeah, it was dark as hell, but it was only 8 o'clock. People live out there. They go places. Not a lot of people, but I don't know where was everyone. Either way, I took it as an opportunity to flip on the high beams. I hadn't kept them on because a car would come by every 5 to 10 minutes, and I didn't want to blind them. The tree branches were so white and bright, it was unsettling. That plus the extreme lack of other people. I turned the music up as loud as it would go, hoping that it would wake him up. It didn't work, but I wasn't too surprised. He's a heavy sleeper. I kept driving with the high beams on and the music up for what felt like another hour, but still no other cars. Not only that, I should have been home by then, or at least close to it. But my ETA on my GPS wasn't changing, and I knew that long roads and trees are not distinctive landmarks, but I could swear I had driven down the same path multiple times. At this point, I was sweating. I kept shaking my boyfriend's leg trying to get him to wake up, but he was completely out. I was about to yell his name until I saw something in the corner of my eye that made me stop. It looked like a woman standing between the trees. For some reason, I couldn't bring myself to look straight at her, but once I saw her, I wasn't able to unsee her out of the corner of my eye. From the details I was able to make out, she was in a long gingham dress and an old-fashioned bonnet. You know, like what I'd imagine women wore on the Oregon Trail. I don't know why, but she shook me to my core. I went as fast as I could without feeling like I was going to crash. But it was like she was the moon. No matter how fast I drove, she was there. The trees moved. I went around curves, but she was still there. Just standing there, staring at me. I turned off the high beams because I didn't want her to be able to see me better than she already could. But right before I flicked them off, I caught a glimpse of her, straight on, as I turned the corner. God, it was the worst thing. Her mouth. Her mouth was sewn shut with a thick black cord. The skin around the stitches were puckered, red, and angry, but her eyes stared straight at me through the windshield with complete lack of emotion. I could feel tears welling up in my eyes, and my mouth went completely dry. I was so focused on that awful mouth of hers that I almost crashed into the mountainside. I had to jerk violently to one side, but I overcorrected and had to swerve again to avoid flying off the road into whatever lay down below. But for the brief second, when my headlights were pointed over the edge, I thought I saw the same face with the thick stitches and staring eyes. But that wouldn't have been possible. It was a straight drop. My boyfriend's head slammed hard against the glass from the turns, but he didn't wake up. I didn't know my reaction to complete terror would be sobbing, but as I raced down the road hoping to God I could outrun that woman, I could feel tears streaming down my face. Even through the blurry vision, though, I could see her standing there, watching. But you know what? If she'd just watched me, I would have driven for another hour or more under that stare. Instead, she jerked her arm in a violent motion, elbow locked, fist pointed straight up in the air. I stared at the road, half because I didn't want to crash, and half because I still didn't want to look at her. It felt like if I did that, I'd be fully acknowledging her existence, making it more real. So instead, I got a full view of another woman, also dressed in a full gingham dress and bonnet, mouth sewn shut. She flew out from the drop-off on the side of the road, arms and legs moving rapidly as she crawled on all fours. Her limbs bent up in unnatural ways, like a four-legged spider. I felt her body slam into the car, but I hadn't hit her. She had jumped somehow. I could hear her nails scraping against the undercarriage of my car as she gripped onto it. I have dreamt a lot that I'm screaming, and I just can't scream loud enough. I've always worried that that'd be the case in real life. I couldn't make a sound. When she hit my car, well, the only thing I could do was pee a little. Okay, a lot. I didn't know what to do. I thought of stopping suddenly to try to throw her off, but the idea of stopping the car at all, I knew that something horrible would happen. I pictured her flying off, spinning around, and launching herself at the windshield. Or even worse, still being able to hold on and scurrying up the car doors. Her nails kept scraping beneath me. I didn't know what to do, and then the answer came to me. Sorry to get off track, but I need to say this. I despise people who hit animals. I know that sometimes it's unavoidable, but I've seen way too many people swerve to purposely hit a squirrel or turtle to assume that every animal on the side of the road was an accident. So what I did, I feel horrible. I saw a doe dart across the road far out in front of me, quickly followed by a tiny fawn. But, well, the fawn didn't make it all the way across the road. I barely thought the thought before I twitched the wheel and slammed into the baby deer. Its poor, big eyes. Jesus, I'm sorry. But it did do what I was hoping for. Its little body went right under the car, crashing into whatever was gripping the underside of the car. I heard the nails scraping down the car and felt the back tires careen over a huge bump. In my rear view mirror, I saw two bodies, one bigger than the other, tumble and skid to a stop behind me. I watched one of them twitch violently, but then I turned the corner and they were out of view. I held my breath for what was probably only a few minutes, but felt like forever. But nothing came bounding around the corner after me. And then I realized I couldn't see the woman in the trees anymore. I didn't let myself feel relieved though, until I saw another car coming towards me. I felt the return to normalcy in my stomach, and my boyfriend finally woke up. I tried to explain to him the sweat and terror on my face, make him understand what had happened, but I just couldn't. I stumbled over my words, trying to understand what the hell I had seen. I still don't understand, but at least I can put it into words. At the time though, I just settled on I had hit a baby deer. In just a few minutes, I saw the sign pointing to the little neighborhood where my parents live. The ETA on the GPS had gone from an hour and a half to 3 minutes in seconds. I remember pulling into the driveway of my parents' house and bursting into tears. Well, I guess more tears than before. The whole time I was there, I avoided being out at night on that parkway, especially alone. About 3 days after I'd gone home, my mom gave me a call. Apparently, there had been a horrific car accident just a few miles down the road from them, which unfortunately happens more often than you'd hope. The unusual thing about it was all the passengers were covered in long, deep nail scratches, and they were done before any of them had died. I'm trying to talk my parents into moving again.